Welcome to another episode of Confident AF Live. My name is Brayden Foster. I'm the author of Confident AF, Unleash Your Inner Badass, and I help badasses like you create internal certainty, unshakable faith, and radical trust to fearlessly grow and scale your business. Today, I'm going to talk about the unfair business advantage. I love talking about this. This was a huge piece which really started to change my life and my business at the end of 2024, radically changed my business in 2025, and is honestly, I'm just feeling the tip of the iceberg of what this is, this unfair business advantage that we have. And it is God's grace, God's free and unmerited favor inside of your business. So today I'm going to share with you 5 ways that grace completely transforms and changes your business and gives you that unfair business advantage. I know this will bring you so much joy, so much encouragement. Remember that faith comes from hearing and by sharing the good news. So as you listen to this, save this podcast episode, save this on YouTube, share this with a friend, share this with a family member, share this with someone on your team, share this with another business owner, travel professional, whatever. Let's get the good news out there about God's free and unmerited favor and how that can completely impact and transform your life and your business in an incredible way, because it's something that I want you, I want you to experience this. And I mean this with all of my heart. I want you to experience this in ways you've never ever experienced it before going into this year and forever and ever. I want you to experience this. So the first thing is that God's grace will give you better results in your business than you actually deserve. Opportunities that you have not earned and blessings that defy all human logic and reasoning. So let's talk about better results than you deserve. Y'all, I made my first $200,000 as a coach with an email list of less than 100 people. That is definitely qualifies as better results than I deserve. I also know this last year, there was one reel that I posted for my travel agency. It ended up having millions and millions and millions of views. It grew our social media accounts by several thousand followers. And it was just one reel, which it's crazy to think about one reel, one social media post that can completely create so much change and so much transformation. But when you begin to appreciate that all good things come from God, all good things come from above, you immediately know it's grace. It's just God's free and unmerited favor, which means you're safe to enjoy it, you're safe to appreciate it, and you're safe to expect more of it because God's grace never stops flowing. Unless you block it, which is a topic for another podcast episode. Okay, number 2, or back to number 1, opportunities that you have not earned. For you all who are new here and don't know, I was the mindset expert for Analytics Campus for 4 years, and that was explicitly an opportunity that I had no business having. I had just done their own mastermind program. I had really been focusing on mindset work and science and all that other kind of stuff. I have been using it inside of their Facebook group just to encourage other people that were going through the program. I just joined their curriculum team, and I remember literally just not even speaking it out loud, I don't think. It was just like this heart-yearning silent prayer every single day to God is like, I just want to make money as a mindset expert / coach who just encourages people to overcome their fears, their worries and doubts, and does really awesome things inside of their business and helps them grow. That's all I want to do. I don't know how I can do that, but I just want to do. And then I remember once I joined Wanderlust Campus, was doing their Careers on Vacation program, it was like, man, I would really love to be the mindset expert, but they have one. So like that can't happen. And then that person decided to leave, and I got a random phone call driving back from the gym. Hey, would you like to be our mindset expert? And I was flabbergasted. I was flabbergasted because I had no authority, no previous experience doing that kind of a work. it was just a godsend. It was just a grace thing. Like, there's no other way to explain it. So that is a great example of opportunities you haven't earned. And then blessings that defy human logic and reasonings. I can give several different examples of that. One would be getting into Florida State University Film School because they only accept 6 people into their screenwriting program. That was definitely defied human logic and reasoning because everybody told me the circus would not let me out of my contract early. They did. They told me that I wouldn't be able to go to FSU because I couldn't do the live interview. They didn't care. I interviewed on the circus train through Zoom. So that was one of them. Another thing that defied all human logic and reasoning was how we got our first house, because my husband and I are both entrepreneurs, and typically to get a housing loan, you have to have, years and years of income to show for it. And we didn't have that, but we were able to get a contract extended for 5 years to show guaranteed income coming in. That defied all human logic and reasoning. My husband, with his speaking gigs that he got this last year, those defied all human logic and reasoning. I mean, he got gig after gig that was paying anywhere from $3,500 to almost $8,000, and they were paying for airfare and hotel and all this other kind of stuff. Just, my mind was really blown this year and defied all human logic and reasoning by God, now that I think about it, in His grace. And I'm really excited to see what happens in 2026. I don't know what is in store for 2026 for me. I just know it's really good things. And I'm really, really excited to see what those good things are. I'm getting choked up just thinking about that right now. Okay, so number 2, wisdom and guidance that no book, coach, or ChatGPT prompt could ever give. There's a lot of people that are scared right now in a lot of different industries, including the travel industry, about ChatGPT and AI, job loss. What is the landscape going to look like? There's a lot of fear that people have over the economy and industries. There's just a lot of fear in the world right now. And what's really interesting to me, and I've been preaching this since day one to everybody inside of my mastermind, anybody who listens to my podcast, YouTube, whatever, I've always been telling all of you all the same thing, that nothing trumps God's wisdom. Like, it is the best thing you could ever have inside of your business. Way too many people copycat other people's strategies, copycat ChatGPT prompts, copycat other people's playbooks, with ever stopping to ask themselves, is this the right way for me to use this tool, this resource? Is the right way for me, right time for me, right for my company, right for my agency, right for my team, right for my clients, right for where I am in my life and my business right now? And even if you have the most incredible strategy that is almost guaranteed to help you go from point A to point B, and you think about it like a GPS will give you, this is where you are, point A, this is how you get to point B, step by step, almost guaranteed directions. But the truth of the matter is, the GPS, if you're using a GPS, doesn't know if there's going to be an accident. It doesn't know if there's going to be inclement weather. Doesn't know if you're going to have a flat tire. Doesn't know if... there's just a lot of unknowns that a GPS can never, ever anticipate. And this is why God's grace, His wisdom, and His guidance is incredible. I remember a time when I did not listen to God's wisdom given in grace to me. Very early on, when I started my travel agency, I just hired a team. This had to have been back in either 2018 or 2019. And one of my ICs came to me and said, hey, I really think you should get on this platform called TikTok with short form video. It's going to blow up. And I just completely ignored her. And it wasn't because I didn't think the advice was good. I guess a piece of it was because I hadn't heard of it, didn't know what it was. But a big piece of it was I wasn't even willing to try. And I just ignored it. And I feel like all of us do that at some point in our business. Now, here's the really cool thing about God's grace and His favor is He will help you make up for lost time, lost traction, missed opportunities, all that other kind of stuff. So I don't want y'all to condemn or beat yourself up or judge yourself for things and opportunities that you miss. But it is true that I want every single one of you all to actually be seeking God's wisdom, guidance, and grace. You know, my favorite verse is about that. It's in James that if any of you lacks wisdom, ask of God, and he gives it to you generously without reproach. And I love that so much. And I want y'all to do that. Ask for wisdom before you use ChatGPT. Ask for wisdom before you make the phone call, before you reach out to the client, before you make the decision. Use God's grace as the best business advantage you could possibly have in making decisions, actions, formulating plans. It is the best that you could ever possibly do. So that's number 2. Number 3 is solutions and miracles and challenges, even when you created them. I talked last week about how incredible, or actually, no, I think this podcast is going to be before this one. So there is going to be another podcast episode, YouTube video, where I talk about perceptions. And it's really important that your perception of God is right. Right believing leads to right actions and right results inside of your business. And it's really, really important for you to realize that because of Jesus' sacrifice, there is therefore now no condemnation in Christ Jesus, that there is no more anger and no more punishment. Okay, this is really, really, really important. I know I'm getting a little Bible-y on everybody today, but this is really, really important because when you make a mistake inside of your business and you feel responsible for the mistake that you made, if you feel like God is punitive or angry or that he's going to punish you, or even if you made a mistake not in your business, but you feel like that mistake warrants punishment or sacrifice or judgment, boo, Jesus already paid for that. Okay, so it's really important that you realize that you are completely free, fully forgiven, and fully favored, and you get to approach God with eager anticipation of his love, favor, and grace helping you through that challenge, the obstacle, situation. Of course, if you didn't have a part to play in creating it, you still get to go to God, to his grace, his wisdom, his love, to help you neutralize it and overcome that and have victory in that, which is huge. But it's really, really important that your perception is not that God is angry or judgmental or punitive in any way, shape, or form, because that is past, okay? That is not who God is. And I really, really, really want you to be able to assert that, because the more that you realize that it's okay if you make a mistake in your business and that there is no punishment, there is no condemnation, there's no shame, there's no guilt, and that God will help you, then the safer you are to try things, the safer you are to experiment with things, the safer you are to make bolder moves with courage and faith inside of your business. And that's how you really start to create some amazing results inside of your business. So that's really important. Number 4, with God's grace, you get to experience freedom from all insecurities, all self-doubts, all fears, all worries, anything that is keeping you playing or small in your business. There are 2 verses that I always give anybody that has joined my mastermind. 1 is that God saves me from all of my fears. And 2 is that perfect love casts out fears. And so it's really important that you realize with God's grace that whatever you're afraid of in your business, whether it's more visibility, more clients, more leadership, more opportunities, making more money, being more successful. Ironically, a lot of you all think that you are, afraid to do things. And usually it's afraid of the outcome of doing the thing. Either you're afraid it's going to fail, or you're afraid of embarrassment, afraid of looking dumb, afraid of looking stupid, or you're actually afraid it's going to work. Like, what happens if you do get all the clients, you do get all the money, you do get the team, you do get the opportunities? Do you feel qualified or good enough to actually have it, right? And so you can have a fear of the negative happening, and you can also have a fear of the good happening. And it doesn't matter, but just so much of everything we do as business owners is driven by our emotions. A lot of people think that your business decisions and actions are driven by your perspective, and that's true, but it's your perspective that determines how you feel. And a lot of what we do and don't do is based on our feelings, which can lie. And so it's really, 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 really important that you really anchor into God's grace as the unfair business advantage to do things you've never done before, so that you can drive out all those fears, all those worries, all those doubts, all those insecurities, because that's the quickest, fastest, simplest way to grow and scale your business, is to do things you haven't done before, or to do things on a level you haven't done them before, right? And you can't create momentum if you're not expanding. That's the other thing. And expansion requires more success, more team, more support, more money, more all those resources. The fifth one is freedom to rest. And it's amazing to me because I've really been blessed in 2025 to work with some very high level agency owners, business owners, corporate executives. And one thing I love about them is that they are action takers. And because they're action takers, they have a new fear, which is a fear of slowing down. It's a fear of resting. It's a fear that if I don't get everything on my to-do list done today, then I've failed and I'm going to miss opportunities. It's all driven from a new level of fear, which is, like I said, a fear of slowing down. And so they're afraid to rest. And today I had this affirmation, and it was, I choose to rest in Jesus' love and restoration in my business. I choose to rest in Jesus' love and restoration in my business. And maybe for you, it's I choose to rest in Jesus' love for protecting my momentum in my business. I really want you all listening to this, if you struggle with rest, because if you struggle with rest, what happens is you get burnt out. You don't have very good boundaries. Relationships begin to suffer. Your work actually suffers because you're not resting, so you're not making as good decisions. You're not showing up as intentionally with your team. You're not showing up with a high level of service for your clients. Your health can really begin to deteriorate and suffer as well. So I really want you all to anchor into this idea that God's grace and favor allows you to rest. And while you rest, God is protecting momentum, protecting your business, and creating space and ways for you to continue to up level while you're doing less and he's doing more. I think that is really, really, really important. Okay, I hope you all love this one. I could go on and on talking about God's grace, but I will share more stories on that later as we continue to give you new podcast episodes. Make sure you're subscribed to all the places. Share this with somebody else, please. Bring them some encouragement. And I would really love for you all to let me know in the YouTube comments, in the podcast comments, or just message me on Facebook. Let me know, how is God's grace impacting you in your business? How are you experiencing these 5 things? Where are you experiencing results better than you could ever expect, hope, or imagine? I really would love to hear some of these grace stories so that I can share them and celebrate with you. Okay, I love you so much, boo. I'll see you next week.